Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Coffee Break Blogging. Today we're going to talk about creating blog opt-in forms and how to actually get the job done. One of those things that can drive a lot of non-techie people right up the wall into crazy town because it can be a bit of a difficult thing. And the thing is, and as we're going to talk about here in this episode, there are a lot of plugins that will aid you to do it. But the thing is, there's a lot of feature overlap between them. So in this episode, I'm going to mention just a few plugins. I'm not going to go out of my way to mention every possible option because quite frankly, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of feature overlap. So the big thing is to get the one that's going to do the best job, given the money that you spend on it, and go from there, okay? So that's the thing. There's a lot of plugins out there. I highly recommend that you don't go onto a tool collection spree. Don't go out there and just blow money because they're marketers and, you know, their marketing is really good. I mean, it's just, all these tools are put forth to seem like the best thing ever. And, you know, in their own right, they're good most of the time. But the marketing is designed to make you want it, you know, and it doesn't mean that just because you don't know any better or what have you, that the marketing is there. And you're like, oh, well, okay. And then you buy but before you know it, you'll have like 3 or 4 plugins that all essentially do the same thing. And that's just a big waste of money. So we don't want to do that. So let's talk about how to create these blog opt-in forms. Now, the first one, and I got to mention it just to get it out of the way, this is more for the geeky types, and that is that you can, yes, hand code your own opt-in forms. You can do it. And in fact, this guy right here, and I'm pointing at myself, has done that on more than one occasion. You know, I come from a fairly geeky background, and so I know how to do things like that. Now, even if you don't know how to manually code your own opt-in forms, you can design an opt-in form in your email list host provider, and it will give you the HTML, you know. So if you go into Aweber and you design an opt-in form that you think looks okay, it'll give you the HTML to throw that on your blog. And then what you can do is go over into WordPress and use the text or HTML widget, drag that into your sidebar, and then you just paste that code that you get from Aweber right into that thing. And it's going to show up in your sidebar or wherever you happen to drop that widget. Now, excuse me, this is the long way to go. It's kind of like geeky. You're probably not going to be nearly as happy with what it looks like. But if you've got skills, if you know how to do HTML and CSS and all that good stuff, you can get really ninja with how your opt-in form looks and feels on your site. So that always remains an option. But I'm going to imagine that most of you listening right now are not going to want to hand code your own opt-in forms. So let's go into the world of plugins here. First of all, let's look at some of the basic features that you want to look for here. The first thing you want to look for with a opt-in plugin is that you want to have some starter templates to get you started, because designers are good at what they do, and most of us are not designers. So the thing is that they have some nice looking opt-in form templates built into the plugin that gives you a humongous head start. Now, the important thing here is that you also want to have a lot of flexibility to turn those pre-designed templates into whatever it is that you want them to look like. There are options like I'm just going to throw out lead pages here. Now, lead pages is not for doing blog-based opt-in forms. They've got lead boxes, but even that's a good example. You're pretty much stuck with the template they give you, and all you can do is change the words and change the image. But that's essentially it, and so it's not that flexible. I use lead boxes in some places, but I'm not a big fan of lead pages as a platform because it's so unflexible. Now, I realize that's probably a selling point for them because it's that the flip side of it is that it's very easy to use. But at the same time, I don't want to be put into a box. So any plugin that you're looking for to do opt-in forms, you should be able to modify to your heart's content. Now, a second thing you need to look for is targeting options. You want to be able to put different opt-in forms on different pages. This is pretty important because if you go back to episode 70 and 71, where we talked about the lead magnets and how we talked about You want to have more than one lead magnet and each one designed to attract a certain type of person. And we've also, in the Coffee Break Blogging show, we've talked about the idea of content upgrades and how we can use them to get extremely high opt-in rates on your site. Now, the thing is that in order to execute something like that, you need to be able to drop opt-in forms into particular pages of your site and get really focused on where you put them. So for that reason, you need to have good targeting options built into the plugin. You need to be able to say, I want this opt-in form to go on this selection of pages and no others. You've got to have that ability. A third that you want is analytics. You want to make sure that you've got a way to display some conversion rates as far as how many people see the opt-in versus how many people actually opt in. You've got to get that information. Then fourthly, and this is sort of important, but not something you need to worry about right out the gate, and that is split testing. You want to be able to split test your opt-in forms so that you can improve your conversion rates over time. Okay, so let's jump right into just a few plugins that I have looked into and look really solid. The first one, and this happens to be my favorite so far, is called Thrive Leads. Now, it used to be called Hybrid Connect, and that was a plugin that I have recommended to people in the past, and then much to my chagrin, they actually canceled it and replaced it with Thrive Leads, and actually Thrive Leads is a big improvement. It's a total rewrite, much easier to use. I've checked out the sales page, and it looks really, really solid. Now, Thrive Leads allows you to do things like the pop-up light box, so your classic, it pops up when you get there, or you can do the exit intent. It has the sticky ribbon, which is that little opt-in form that'll stay up at the header of your site and just kind of stick there. So even as you scroll down your own blog, the opt-in form stays there. So it's very similar to Hello Bar or something like that, if you've seen the Hello Bar. Thrive Leads will obviously do inline forms. So if you want to put an opt-in form at the bottom of your blog post or even in the middle of a blog post, you can do that with Thrive Leads. You can do two-step opt-ins. So what you would see as the lead box functionality, you can do that with Thrive Leads. So you don't even need to pay the recurring fee of lead pages. You can actually do this with the Thrive Leads and do it as a one-time buy. You could do slide-ins, so you get these things that will pop up from the footer or from the side. Generally, it's down in the the lower right side of your blog. You'll see that little pop-up thing, but it will slide in there. And it's just generally less intrusive. It doesn't get in the way of somebody when they're trying to read. And therefore, I tend to like them a little bit better. And then you can also do the standard sidebar widget with Thrive Leads. They all pretty much do that, where you can drag the widget in there, and then whatever form that you've designed with Thrive Leads will show up right in the sidebar of your blog or in your footer, or essentially any area of your site that can accommodate widgets. One thing I'll mention there is that many good themes have a widgetized homepage, which is great because we've talked before about how the homepage is a great opt-in opportunity to treat that homepage like a landing page and almost like a squeeze page. And you could do that by using a widgetized homepage that's built right into your theme, if it's a good theme, and you can pop a Thrive Leads form right onto the homepage that way. So that's Thrive Leads, really solid plugin. It has a nice visual editor for creating these forms. So I think that you will not go wrong with the Thrive Leads plugin. The second one I want to mention is OptinMonster. Now, OptinMonster is put out by the same guys that do WPBeginner.com. And I know Syed over there, really great guy, really great team. They definitely know what they're doing. And OptinMonster is a good plugin. I have used it before. I'm not actively using it right now. It does most of the same stuff that Thrive Leads does. There are some things that Thrive Leads will do that OptinMonster does not, but it generally does the same thing. It's got analytics, it's got split testing, it gives you targeting options, and you've got a lot of templates in there that will help get you started. It's not quite as flexible in terms of the types of forms that you can do. So for example, with Thrive Leads, you could even have like a little mini quiz inside the form, and then they'll submit the answers, and then they give them a second thing right inside the form for them to fill out the email address. So there's some really cool functionality that you have with Thrive Leads that last I looked, OptinMonster does not have. But it's still a really solid plugin. You cannot go wrong with it. Now, a third one I want to mention here is called OptinSkin. Now, OptinSkin, I personally think it's falling behind the times. I don't really know if they're maintaining it anymore. I haven't really kept up on it. But I went and checked out the landing page, and it doesn't look like it's changed very much recently. But when I did try it, it was a solid plugin. It's just that I think OptinMonster and Thrive Leads have really outdone OptinSkin, and I'm not sure that they're really keeping up. But, at least last I looked, I know Pat Flynn over at smartpassiveincome.com was still using OptinSkin in some locations. And so there are people who will look into OptinSkin and consider it. And it's not a bad option, but I think you'll do a better job going with either Thrive Leads or OptinMonster. And then lastly, another one that's popular because, well, it's just popular. But the other thing is that you get some functionality for free, and that is SumoMe. And that's just SumoMe, SumoMe.com. Now, the thing about SumoMe is it's kind of like a little app store for your blog. So it's got a lot of other things in there besides email opt-ins. For example, I'm using SumoMe for the share buttons because I like the way their social media share buttons work. But one of the things that you can get with SumoMe is an opt-in system, and you can have it pop up. You can have it do the slide-in type thing, and you can do those things with SumoMe. It's not as flexible because it's not a dedicated opt-in form. So you're going to do a lot better with Thrive Leads in terms of email marketing capability than you will with SumoMe. But it is an option, and you can definitely check it out. And even if you're not particularly interested in the email opt-in capability of SumoMe, I recommend you check it out because there's a lot of cool things that you can add to your blog by using SumoMe. It's more of a platform to add different things to your blog than it is just an opt-in thing. It does a lot more than that. So I'm going to end off this episode by saying that between the ones that I've mentioned here, and yes, there are a lot of other ones out there, it's just that, like I said, there's so much feature overlap between them that it's a waste of time to talk about them. My personal favorite looks like it would be Thrive Leads. Now, I'm not using Thrive Leads personally, so I want to be upfront about that. I'm not recommending it to you because I personally used it. I did use the earlier version, Hybrid Connect, and I've looked at Thrive Leads, and it looks like a superior product to Hybrid Connect in all possible ways. What I'm using right now is still the lead boxes functionality, and then I manually code them into my sidebar. But like I said, I'm kind of a geek that way. And I know a lot of my listeners are not the geeky type. So I would say check out Thrive Leads. It's probably going to be your best bet in terms of a lot of flexibility with where you place your lead magnets on your blog in many different forms. You can even split test different form types with Thrive Leads. It's a really, really powerful plugin. Okay, so pick something and let's move on. Don't buy more than one of these things because that would be a waste of your time. Okay, so we've been talking about the top tools for creating blog opt-in forms. And the next one, we'll go into some more tools on how to create squeeze pages. And that'll be episode 76 of Coffee Break Blogging coming right up. And I'll see you then.